Hey everyone, welcome back to the tax show for people who owe. I'm Dave.
And I'm Phil.
All right, Phil, tax season started, but this tax season is different, especially for taxpayers who owe. Tell us why.
Well, collections is back, and collections back in a big way for a lot of different type of taxpayers, especially if you owe.
So I think it's important we try to help folks who owe know, because everybody wants to know when they're going to get the letter, when they're going to get the enforcement. Let's break it into two different categories to help them. What are the categories that should be most concerned?
I think what is most on top of the radar is those taxpayers who owe for 2022. So on your 2022 return, if you had a balance due and didn't pay it, you probably already received several notices by now.
Yep. The IRS started earlier for that tax year, and they have said we're going to follow the regular collection cycle.
Correct.
Okay. So that's the most alarming debt. If you owe for 2022, get an established payment plan or pay it off soon. Anything else, Phil?
Next, let's talk about our other bucket. Taxpayers who owe for years other than 2022.
Like multiple years or just 1 year?
It could be just 1 year for 2021 or several years from as back as 2016 or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
These taxpayers should have all received a soft letter called the LT38.
Mm-hmm.
This informs them and gives them a nice summary of all their balance dues. In fact, IRS even went out of their way to automatically apply penalty payment where it was applicable for 2020 and 2021.
To give you a little indication of how aggressive the IRS is on these older balances, those LT38 notices account for about 90% of our notice volume right now, meaning we get a lot of trades here, thousands of pieces of mail. 90% of that mail is LT38, so that's the older balances.
Now, if you receive an LT38, don't be shocked.
Well, they might be shocked, Phil, because those balances are growing faster than ever.
Good point, David. Penalties and interest do accumulate and compound, which is the important part, daily. So those balances may be much higher than you remember, but you still have options.
Especially if you haven't even checked in to know what your balance was for multiple years. The IRS hasn't been telling anybody, right?
Correct.
What's the last bucket that we should probably cover? Although it's not happening now, we expect it to happen soon.
Well, this last bucket, David, is maybe a hidden bucket. If you don't owe because you haven't filed, it doesn't mean you won't owe. And in fact, penalties and interest are still accruing. They get backdated to the point in which you should have filed.
So if you were hiding or the IRS was hiding from you by not filing your return, now is the time to act, right?
Absolutely. You want to be sure you file before the IRS files for you.
The benefit to filing is number one, establishing the debt. And you want to do that on your own before the IRS files for you. We covered that in a prior episode. Also, older years have many more options than the newer recent years when it comes to resolution options. Is that correct?
I'm going to say it depends, but generally, yes, David.
Anyways.
Older years have larger accumulation of penalty and interest. So if you do qualify for an abatement, that's a huge win.
All right. So we're going to close out with that because I think we're going to close out with the win. The fact is the IRS is back. The sleeping giant has awoken. They're not hiding anymore. And it's time for you guys to get back into compliance and avoid those aggressive collection actions that we're all afraid of, right? So that's going to close the show for us today, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Phil, any last parting words?
As usual, do something. You want to be ahead of that levy or that lien. You don't want to be reacting to it.
Thank you for joining us today, everyone. We'll see you next time.